Ivan, thank you very much for joining us with the Victorian Croatian Chamber today. Something that we are doing is promoting our local members, and you have been a significant advocate for the Victorian Croatian Chamber for a little while now. Now, just a quick intro about who you are, because this is all about us getting to know each other through these videos. Ivan, you're a chartered accountant with over 25 years experience with corporate and personal insolvency related matters across a number of industries. So really nice, big, rich experience there. So you have been involved with voluntary administrations, deeds of company arrangements, liquidations, receiverships, bankruptcy, personal insolvency agreements, litigation support, fraud investigation, and business reconstruction advice. And you've done some really good qualifications and courses here. So pretty much you're the expert to go to when people are struggling in their business, or they should really come beforehand, shouldn't they?
Look, the ideal position is they come to us way before this ever becomes a problem. And you then can teach them how to asset protect, make sure the accountants and lawyers have got all their paperwork in order. So if there's any risk against the person's business, personal or their company, there's some sort of protection around that. 99.99% of people don't go to the doctors until they're half dying. And that's unfortunately the same with business. So they generally don't want to come to either a pride issue or some other reason they don't come and see us. And when they do come and see us, well, you know, we have to then try to deal with what is the issue? How do you break it down? Is it a personal problem? Is it a company problem? Can we save the business? What's wrong with the business? Is it a restructuring? And there's all these things that go with it. But my industry is really based around how to deal with loss, how to do a restart, because that's really what insolvency is. It's restarting things to go again. Investigations usually consist of things like fraud, where someone's stolen money within a business or within a family unit. So you get to see a few tough things. The reality of life is you call me when you think you need to talk about your asset protection. That's the first part.
Yeah.
But most people will call me through their accountant when there's literally no other option to do, some sort of a saving of the business. With that said, I've had the luxury of seeing business outside of insolvency. So I used to be in retail as well. So I've spent my professional life before insolvency was running a very large operation of stores in Australia. And I realised that business isn't the way people think from a textbook, as you know, Cindy, from doing what you do. So got to experience how it works, staffing, business, you know, stock and sales and all those wonderful things that go into retail, but also what really makes it tick. That's given me a bit of pleasure over the time to use that skill set into insolvency where I am now.
How did you step away from retail to insolvency?
Retail at the time was very, very, very busy. And in my case, it was a 7-day week, 14-hour day, recently married. And my wife said, look, I don't really want you to be doing 7 days a week because we're recently married. So I moved out of that into accounting because I could. And no reason otherwise. But look, industry is quite dynamic, and insolvency is too. Insolvency is very open, and you get to see a lot of things. I'd probably say in the time that I've been doing insolvency, maybe 2,500 companies and people's affairs, if not more. It's probably about, let's say, a couple hundred a year. So whatever that works out to. Might be 5,000, I don't really know. But what I've learned over time is it's usually the same type of systematic problem. People don't understand what they're doing as far as the numbers are concerned. They know their businesses, but they don't really know the numbers. And even in their personal affairs, they know that they've bought something, but they don't know why or how, or budgeting, or, you know, protecting the assets, or all of those wonderful things that make, us survive, so to speak. And as long as they continue to do that, there'll always be people like me. So ideally, we'd love to be able to teach them, and we've always been advocating for the idea of teaching people to get into business courses and do them before they run, the cafe, restaurant, plastering place, whatever they do. But the government seems to take this philosophy of you don't want to stifle innovation, you don't want to stifle people's entrepreneurship. So,
but can you really teach people business? at the start before they've even had a business?
To be blunt with you, I think teaching people business is a bit like teaching a kid to walk. You can teach them to walk, but whether they can stand on their own for long, it's whether they walk the right way. It's a little bit like that. I also think if
you fall, it's okay. You can keep bouncing back up.
Yeah, keep bouncing back up. Spot on.
Yeah.
I also think some people look. Business life is dynamic, so you always get your growth patterns, your flattening. You'll see the dip and the dive, so to speak. If you don't recognise the time to get out, then you'll never recognise business, what it means to you. What I mean by that is, once you start one, sometimes it's good to grow it and sell it. Don't stay in it, because it requires enormous amounts of energy, and you've got to have it all the time. Family commitments, to come, and people get older, and health conditions, and all sorts of other circumstances that change the way you are. So for that, I think it makes sense to get in and out of business at the right time if you want to be in that place, or just be an employee. Sometimes it's just easier to be an employee. But in all the time in insolvency, look, there is no person, place, topic, industry that's not been affected by insolvency. The richest of the rich and the poorest of the poor all see it. A bit like death. Hate saying it. Everyone's going to do it in different forms, but it's just respecting what's around you, understanding how it works. Working out whether you, in the case of insolvency, working out whether you can fix it when it comes to me, and that happens most of the time. Truth be known, 7 out of 10 times people never go through insolvency when they see us. It's that 3 out of 10 that you might have an issue they have to try to fix. So
that's a good point. Maybe if you can explain to us a little bit more about Worrells and tell us how much depth and experience has Worrells got?
Yeah, sure. So Worrells has been around 48 years, not quite 50 yet. We're getting there. We have combined, God knows how many thousands of years of experience, truth be known, just in the experts we've got. It's a firm which was established from the growth in small business insolvency. In other words, small businesses were suffering at the time, it grew. The bankruptcies were growing, so therefore the accountants at the time, being Ivan Glavas and a few others, decided that it's probably worthwhile specialising in insolvency because it is a unique space. And as time progressed, it's grown from what was 2 or 3 people now to close to about 180 people. We're national. We are in every state and territory for that matter. We do predominantly specialise in personal and corporate insolvency matters and fraud investigations and other things, but primarily personal and corporate insolvency matters. Where we come in, we try to fix the problem. There's new laws that have just come in recently about attempting to improve the way recoveries are made for small business. We jump on, we try to utilise that law as appropriate, and of course see what happens from there. I won't comment on the new law. I think it's too early to comment, but I will say that a lot of it's been copied from other legislation around the world, which isn't working. So if it's not,
we'll come back to you for another interview on that one.
Yeah, please. That's another topic in itself.
That's good. Yeah. This is about you and Worrells and how you can help people. So who are your ideal customers?
Ideal customer.
Explain that.
That's an interesting one. Well, Cindy, it's very hard to pick it. I mean, most of the work comes from accountants and lawyers, business advisors. Like in your business, for example, if you saw a client with a problem, I'm hoping you'll call me. And if I see a client that needs your business, I'll say, Cindy, it's yours. You take it. It's not my thing. But the majority of work comes from accountants and lawyers because they're the ones that really see, what's going on in the coalface. Yeah. That said, our church is broad. So we get work from the tax office. We get work from, debt collectors. We get work from business advisors, financial planners, you name it, they're there. Government departments and so forth. So it's horses for courses. I mean, you bring us in at a certain skill set. Now, skill set really is small to medium enterprise. We don't go and deal with an Ansett or a Qantas, God forbid Qantas, but we don't deal with that type of an entity. We don't need to. There are businesses that do that. So Worrells is really focused on family businesses, small businesses, medium-sized, that's it. People's affairs, as in mum, dad, personal affairs, small business affairs for people as opposed to a company. And it's done that for many years and does it well. So
excellent.
Yeah.
And I guess it's one of those things you probably get a lot of referrals because it's the referrals who are staying into the business, whereas it's a bit hard sometimes for business owners to see what's going on and realise when they're sitting in it all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. 95% of the time, when I do get the phone call and we filter away the issues, we work out what type of structure, if there's anything for insolvency, because it might end up being what they call members voluntary liquidation, which is an entity which is solvent and doesn't need to be, it needs to be shut down, but it doesn't need to be wound up like what they call a creditors voluntary process, which is completely different.
You're getting very technical now.
Yeah, I'm not proposing to, but basically not all liquidations are bad. In other words, some liquidations are done for tax reasons. So, company's got lots of assets and no debt, but wants to liquidate it so it can deal with its tax effect. And by doing that, it saves people lots of money. So it's not all negative. It's just, unfortunately, you hear one word and everyone says, oh my God, it's death. No.
Yeah, it is that association with insolvency, isn't it?
Yeah. But look, I've always tried to teach those that I work with, call me beforehand. Call me if you're not sure, and I'll talk to you whether it's doable or whether it's needed to be with me or whether it should be with you. So we always talk about the scenario, and we best place it. It's just how I guess I see it.
So if in doubt, it's really good just to pick up the phone and have a conversation.
Yeah, 100%.
Test the waters and see if there's anything that can be done.
Yep, and whether it needs to be. Yeah, sorry.
Now, a little bit more about your connection with Croatia.
So yeah, mum and dad were both born there. Mum came in 1956, dad came in 1959. History wise, I mean, obviously I'm born and bred Croat. I don't really speak it at home anymore, I've got to say, because I've married an Italian lady and obviously we've got kids and no chance of speaking, unless you know the swear words, and that happens every so often. But it's, look, the heritage is there, the culture's there, the food's there. We still eat the Croat way. Come a special occasion, you can't do it every day, otherwise it'd be way too big. But all the special meals and dishes come out. It's very fond in our family. Obviously, we talk the history and the culture, and having a European mixed culture, in other words, Italian and Greek and so forth, mixed within the family, the extended family. It's quite interesting how the Europeans get along with each other. There hasn't been any wars yet, so it's good.
They're good, strong cultures.
I know, it's crazy, but it's really nice. I've got to say, it's been a wonderful culture to be brought up in, and it's very rich in its flavours of people. Yeah. So I love it. I mean, the VCCC to me is very near and dear to my heart because it brought home and it gives to me what I've grown up with. Just the way people talk and act and are. And as time goes on, you never want to lose that. So
the older you get, the more meaningful your history and background and the culture really means.
I think it's the more you understand, the more you realise that there's something something that defines you, I think. And I guess as time's gone on, I've realised that I love the culture. I love the history. I love the way we are. I mean, we're quite practical people. We don't necessarily we say it as it is. This is it, as opposed to sort of beating around the bush. So you miss that. Look, it's magical. It really is. So from a perspective as a member of the VCCC, I think the more people would join and see the reason for it, I think they would appreciate what we do, which is keeping the heritage, keeping the culture, keeping it all in perspective and real.
Mm.
So yeah, what can I say? I'm talking too much.
No, always a pleasure to have a conversation with you and hear your perspectives around the world and rich experience that you have. We very much appreciate that, and thank you for the time and effort and energy that you keep giving to the VCCC.
Well, indeed, last year was a very bad year for many. So let's hope this year is really good for everybody, and we get our feedback on the ground, and we can get together and do formal functions and all those things that go with it. So yeah,
great to connect again.
indeed.